Welcome to today's episode of Tops Talk, where we discuss all things energy. I'm your host, Robbie, and today with me we have Mark. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Mark, why don't we just start off with a brief introduction? I'd love for you to let our audience know, who you are and what it is you do.
All right. I am the company's primary site surveyor for the pre-installation surveys. I also do quality assurance checks, and I go and do service calls as necessary.
Beautiful. A jack of all trades, really. But I think today's conversation, I really want to focus on the site survey. And we really want to just, talk about what it is, the importance of it. So why don't we start there? What is a site survey exactly?
All right. The site survey that we do for solar tops, we take and are looking at what is on your site. What is your site like, which it means what wall space have you got and also what your roof is like. We have to do it because that information we cannot gather remotely.
Mm-hmm.
You can get satellite images that are pretty good but are not sort of military grade quality.
Sure.
Where you're looking at centimeter type stuff. So I go out, and when I'm on the roof, I'm verifying what's there and taking measurements to compare against what the software shows us is there.
Interesting. So I suppose for like a little bit of a background, so when a customer decides to go solar and their energy consultant has submitted the paperwork, typically a preliminary design of where the panels are going to be placed on the home, you have that information in hand, and then you'll be going out to the property to essentially verify some of your findings while you are out there. Correct?
That's correct.
And is it necessary for a homeowner to be at home during a site survey?
It depends on what they're purchasing. If they're purchasing just the solar panels, then no, they don't need to be home. If, however, they're getting a battery system, in that case, yes, they do need to be home because I'll need to access inside the garage area. Also, if they have multiple electrical panels where there's some inside the structure, then I'll need to be there too. So that's mainly on manufactured homes and also on some of the very high-end homes. They'll have sub-panels that may be in the garage or may be located elsewhere in the house.
Understood. So when you're out at the property and you are evaluating where the equipment is going to be placed, on the home or inside the garage as well. What are some of the considerations that you are making? And now this is more particularly just regards to where the panel is located and any of the equipment that might be placed on the side of the home, such as the disconnect switch or things along those lines.
All right, what I'm looking for there depends partially on which electric company the homeowner is using.
Okay.
Certain electric companies say...
And by electric company, you mean the utility companies?
Yeah, the utility, the power company.
Okay, it's like APS, SRP, TEP. Yeah. Okay.
All right. APS in particular is insistent that we have the disconnects in front of any gates or walls that enclose the property.
And just so we have our audience understand, what is the disconnect exactly?
The disconnect is the final switch between your electrical panel on your side of your house and the solar system that we've installed.
Okay.
And that allows a quick shut-off of the system without an emergency responder having to go and figure out which breaker inside your electrical panel to turn off. Also, you may have locked your electrical panel, in which case they'd have to get out something to cut off your lock.
Got to keep out all those pesky neighbors, Okay, so the disconnect switch for a utility like APS has to be located in an area that can be readily accessed.
That has no gate
Okay.
Wall in front of it. The other electric companies, such as SRP, TEP, they say we're not concerned about that.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So that's a consideration of when you're looking on the side of the home where you might need to place equipment. When we get up to to the roof, what are you looking for up there?
All right, on the roof, I'm looking for obstructions, which are your vents, your chimneys, skylights, anything that pops through the basic structure of the roof. So if you've got a tile roof, they stand up above the tile. If you have a flat roof, they're standing up above the flat roof. And those will prohibit us putting the solar panels over them. And they might also provide shade that would lower the production of a panel or a number of panels.
So we're up there. We're looking for obstructions. We're looking for anything that could cause shading. What are some of the typical things you see on the roof that may cause shading that a homeowner may not be aware of?
Well, the first thing to be aware of is any trees that actually stand up above your roof that are to the east, west, or south. Beyond that, you're looking at chimneys. You're looking at roof-mounted air conditioning or swamp cooler systems. You're looking at some of the vents they put up are actually quite tall. And you think, all right, that's not going to really matter because it's only a thin bit of shade, but it will take a while to get across the panel. And during that transit period, the panel is producing less power.
Understood. And then I suppose even on flat roofs, you could even have the parapet walls. The sort
they
of
will
boundaries
be an
of
issue
their,
as well.
that
And
can also-
sometimes where you have two different levels on your roof, even though they're only a foot or two high, or maybe 3 feet, sometimes 7 feet, they will also cause shading issues. And the engineering department then tries to place the panels where they will have the least or no effect on the
production of the panels. That makes sense. And so when you're up on the roof, we're looking for shading, we're looking for obstructions. Now, here in Arizona, it doesn't necessarily rain as much, or we have actually a rather good climate, I would say, where most homeowners don't necessarily think about their roof all that much. And I suppose the question that I'm gearing towards is, what considerations do you make in regards to the actual integrity of the roof?
I am not a professional roofer, but what I am looking for up there are a large number of broken tiles, shingles that have been lifted or come off, and on flat roofs, areas where the staining indicates water puddles.
Okay.
And particularly on flat roofs, you look for areas where any coating is cracking, because that will cause leaks eventually.
Sure.
And those would need to be repaired before we actually start working.
Makes sense. And I mean, while you're out there, what are you doing in regards to documenting the process? I'd love for our audience to know a little more about that.
I take a whole bunch of photographs of the roof that show what's up there. If there's damage areas, I'm taking photographs of those as well, so that we know what's there. And if we feel it's the engineering department, or I feel it's important for the homeowner to get them, we transmit those to the homeowner.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. Typically, how long does a site survey take, to be completed?
Typically, they run about an hour and a quarter from my arrival to my departure, but that is dependent on the complexity of the wall area, how much I've got to draw and measure in that area, and then also whether your actual house has appeared on the satellite images yet.
Sure.
We have a couple means of accessing those. If you go to Google Maps, you can look at the satellite view. That provides good information, but those aren't the best photographs. We use proprietary software that has closer focusing or better definition of the roofs, but even that, as I said earlier, was not military grade, where you're looking at centimeter accuracy.
Right.
And so you have to measure and look for what might be there. And it's also a matter of interpretation. Because I've been on the roof so much, I can look at the satellite image and say, oh, there's something, there's something, there's something, there's something. A lot of times the salespeople cannot see those.
Sure, understood.
And that means that there'll be changes to what the salesperson has given the homeowner in terms of what the layout will finally be.
Mm-hmm. And, I know that can sometimes be a cause of concern for a homeowner, that potentially the layout's being changed. But I believe in our conversation that we were having just as we begun, the important factor for us is really making sure that the homeowner's system is producing the most amount of energy possible for their home.
Yeah, it's basically so it produces at least as much as we've promised it to produce.
Right, and hopefully more. That's always our goal. When you're out on a site, you're looking at shade and you're looking at other considerations. But are there certain factors that, when you get to a site, might cause some concern for you as to whether or not the property is suitable for solar? Are there any things that a homeowner might want to be aware of? Now, these might not be issues that let's just say they cannot fix. So I guess more likely, are there any sort of considerations that a homeowner should be aware of when going solar that could be addressed by them?
The ones that can be addressed by them are primarily the foliage. Mm-hmm. If you have tall trees, you have to decide whether your production is more important than the look of the trees and how long they've been growing there. Or you have to, if you decide the trees are more important, then you're going to have to accept a reduced production from the same amount of panels. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Beyond that, there's little the homeowner can do to change things. Mm-hmm. And it's really to say, well, you have options of different roofs. They may not provide the same production as well. If you've got a large property, there's always the possibility of going with a ground mount system.
Okay. So I suppose that's where engineering capabilities and engineering skills really come into play in order to be able to combine the right type of equipment, considering the property, to make sure that we can really maximize production.
That's good.
And I really think that would be the case. Well, Mark, I really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, was there anything else we wanted to touch base on?
It's mainly the customer needs to be aware that the entire roof cannot be used. There's fire codes and other codes that prohibit us from taking up your entire roof and turning it into a glass panel.
Sure.
And then the same applies when we get down to the ground. You've got issues that affect the panel that you've got. If you've got your panel is fully utilized and all of the breakers in there have been doubled up already, mm-hmm. you're going to have to consider a panel upgrade.
Sure.
Even if we don't do that, we may have to derate the main breaker because the bus bar won't take mm-hmm. the potential load.
Right. And so in sort of layman's terms, if you will, you have a home that it's essentially all of the main loads within the home are feeding into the actual service panel itself. And if that cannot take any more, as you say, any more load, then it might need to be upgraded, or we might need to make some minor adjustments in order to accommodate the actual solar panels, addition to the property.
It's not so much that it won't take the load, is that the potential for supplying the panel with too much power is there for the bus bar that's carrying the load to all the circuit breakers.
All right.
And that's where the change comes.
Understood. Well, I really appreciate your time. Obviously, very much appreciate all of your efforts with Solar Tops. We know that when you're out there, you're going to be giving us the honest truth, and we know that you ensure that all of our homeowners are in safe hands. So very much thank you for your time, and thank you for all of your efforts.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That will wrap it up, folks, for today's episode of Tops Talk. I want to thank Mark once again for joining us, and thank you guys for being part of this conversation. conversation. Looking forward to speaking to you next week.